Hey, this is Shashank Jani here, and we are continuing our learning with part 5 of markup or margin management in learning, buying, and merchandising. If you haven't yet seen the videos on average markup, please see the last 3 videos. Again, as a reminder, this and the other videos are a recording from a live virtual boot camp that we conducted. Now, we're going to discuss the topic of initial markup.
Okay, so question to the group, any issues understanding average markup? Any questions, any doubts with average markup? We discussed 3 types of average markup, right? 3 types of calculations, right? Markup made on a balance, averaging retail and averaging cost. Any questions on any of those points? Feel free to ask me. There are no wrong questions. Again, like Shashank mentioned in our initial session, there are no bad questions. Okay. Well, I think I did a splendid job then, right? All right, let's just go ahead with the next point of our discussion, and that is okay. Quick point to note. There are practice problems for those of you who have access to the mobile app, both on and the desktop. There are practice problems that are made available to you to try out, and these are exercises. I think practice problems 5.1 ranging through 5.5. So try out those practice problems. They're basically going to be considering what they have questions based on what we discussed. These are optional, they are not necessary, but they will reinforce what we've discussed today in your minds so that you've understood markup like the back of your hand, right? It should be very simple to understand. Okay, let's get back to understanding what we are talking about, and that is going to our next timing of markup, which is actually the first markup which is made. So I'm going to pull that up, and that is initial markup. So initial markup, but what is initial markup? Well, it's the markup that is placed on merchandise as it's received in the store, right? In certain cases, you can also refer to this as planned markup, right? This is unadulterated, so to speak, right? It's unaffected by any sort of markdowns or things like that that are applied in the future, right? But at the beginning, when things are applied, then you do take those into account. So initial markup, I'm just going to read these points off the screen, and I'll try to explain them the best I can. Initial markup is the difference between billed cost of merchandise and the original retail price placed on an item or group of items. Okay, initial markup is the difference between what the billed cost of merchandise is and the original retail price placed on an item or group of items. Okay, a billed cost is the cost after quantity or trade discounts are deducted, but before cash discounts are deducted. Okay, let's get that in mind. Billed cost is our, like you said, right, billed cost of merchandise. So that cost is the is trade discounts are deducted, but before cash discounts are deducted. All right. Retail reductions that we mentioned earlier are things like markdowns, employee discounts, special customer discounts, or stock shortages. So the formula for initial markup percent is expenses plus profit plus all these reductions that we mentioned below divided by sales and reductions. Again, all of these are mentioned below. So as a formula, here's something that you can look at, right? Here's an example. What should the initial markup percent in a department having the following figures be? So in this case, we have net sales, profit, expenses, employee discounts, markdown, shortages. Very tough to understand just looking at these numbers. But if you look at the solution, it makes it very easy, right? So expenses 80,000, profit 6,000, add those two up, then subtract the reductions of, sorry, then you add up the reductions with each other, which is in this case 600 for shortages, 5,200 for markdowns, and employee discounts at 400. So you add those two up, and then you add the whole thing, which is 92,200. Yeah, 92,200. Right, 8,000 plus 6,000 plus 6,200. That's 92,200. And then you take the next part of the formula, which is net sales plus your reductions. So 6,200, which is our reductions, plus our net sales, which is 170,000. That makes it 176,200. Divide the two up, 92,200 and 176,200, and you get 53.33%. Okay, so that's how you calculate initial markup. Now, two additional factors that can be added is alterations and cash discounts. So alterations and cash discounts, if these are taken into account, well, here's how the formula looks. So you take your expenses plus profit plus reductions plus alterations and cash discounts. This little thing is added to the initial markup formula, and then you divide it by net sales plus reductions. Okay, that's the entire formula. So let's take this as an example. Let's take this particular question, 521A. So we go to initial markup. Now I've designed this, this calculator so that it's easy for you to just key in the figures and you'll be able to understand the whole thing. Okay, so let's look at the question. So the question is, what's the necessary initial markup percent? So 100,000 sales, oops, that's 10,000. 100,000 sales, 40,000 markdowns. We have 10,000 employee, oh, sorry, that's reductions. So reductions is 10,000 total. Okay, so we've not added that here, but let's just make it 10,000 here, right? Other reductions. Oops, no, not markdowns at 40. Expenses at 40,000. Right. Then we have alteration costs at 900 and cash discounts at 750. We also have a profit of 5,000. Right. So now, if we follow the formula, right, it should give us our final of 50.14 by looking at this formula. Easy to understand, right? Expenses plus profit plus reductions plus alteration cost minus cash discount. And then we go down, net sales plus reductions. Easy to understand. Okay. Now let's keep this thing let's keep this question in mind. I'm going to delete these numbers. And let's go to the next one. The next one is actually an interesting one. Let's go to, here we go. Right, so calculate the initial markup percent that will enable a department to reach 9% profit. So here's the interesting part, right? Here we don't have whole figures all the way through. Here we have some percentages and we have a mix of whole figures. Well, question to the group, what are these percentages and what are these percentages of? This is 4%, like profit is 9% of what? Remember we discussed there was a key figure that was 100%.
The retail price.
Retail price, or in this case, the overall sales that are made, right? The overall sales that are made amount to, because profit is you only get profit from selling things, right? You don't get profit from just adding a retail price to something. So profit is a percentage of net sales. In this case, net sales is how much? 220,000. Same thing with markdowns. What is markdowns a percentage of?
in the net sales.
Perfect. Very good. So again, keep this in mind when you're doing this calculation. Net sales is always going to be your 100% value. Okay. Net sales is always going to be your 100% value. Everything else is a portion of that net sales. Markdowns is 4%, profit is 9%, employee discounts is a percentage, is a percentage, is a percentage, is a percentage. You get the idea, right? All of these little numbers are a percentage of the 220,000 sales. So let's break this down so we understand this a little bit easier. So our first goal is to transform these markdowns into whole figures so that we have these markdowns and profit into whole figures so that we understand this. So I've made a little portion over here for the calculator so that everyone understands. So that's 220,000 and the percentage is 9% for profit, right? So that's 19,800 and 4% for markdowns, which is 8,800. All right, now we can key in the other figures. So 220,000. Employee discounts are 2,100. Shortages are 1,900. Expenses are 95,000. And now the last two figures, cash discounts and alteration costs, 5,400 and 2,600. All right. So now we should get 53.61. And if we follow the math right, it should be 53.61, lo and behold, right? So that is initial markup. Any questions regarding initial?
Hope you've enjoyed this video. In the next video, we'll discuss cumulative markup. Join us for a free webinar to learn more about buying and merchandising. The link is given in the description below. Check it out. See you soon.